So I want to do a little presentation here, and I want to catch people up because we're going to talk about China today. And I think this is a good intro into why a China tariff might make sense, but why I think we went around it a weird way. So this video, tariffs are on, tariffs are off. We've been out of duck season, rabbit season. We don't know what's going on. I want to flash back to World War II and give like a super brief primer on how we got here and what's going on.
Because you were there. You know what it's like.
You know what? I think actually, not only was I there, some other people were there. So there was the Axis powers, as you can see here.
That was a good transition.
These are the Axis powers, and they were fighting. I'm sorry, historical images. Can we please focus here? These are the Axis powers from Germany, Italy, and Japan.
That's our thumbnail for the episode.
And then these were the Allied powers, okay? The guy in the bottom right kind of played both sides. Yeah. He was kind of like, part of the war, he was on one side, part of the war, he's on. So we had the Axis and Allied powers, okay? Turns out, at the end of the war, the Allied powers won. And the bottom two here.
The American president famously only had like 2/3 of a head.
Sharp cut.
Yeah, it was just
that
kind
was
of
the style at the time.
Right.
That was the FDR.
That's why he couldn't walk.
He was just missing a lot of
brain.
I told you, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It was brain rot. Anyway, the Allies win. These bottom two here were kind of destroyed, though. UK and Russia were kind of destroyed. So it's kind of like an American empire, not American golden age. All right, post-World War II, America's still got all the infrastructure. They got everything built, and it's a great time. And because they're the most powerful country in the world at the time, biggest military, best manufacturing, they set up the global world order basically in a way that benefits them. So there's the UN, there's the World Trade Organization, there's a bunch of other things that the United States sets up and is like the leader of that sort of organized global trade. And that is run for decades. Through the Cold War was the only other power that kind of opposed America was Russia. But then by the 90s, they're gone, collapse. So now they called it the end of history kind of in 92. America's won, it's over, there's no other. This way of working is going to be the end, okay? Then in 2000, again, this is like when we're little kids, the year 2000, something significant happens. I think Bill Clinton's the president at the time. They welcome China into the WTO, which is the World Trade Organization. They say, China, you are now getting the same trade rules as everyone else in the WTO. You can trade freely. There's no tariffs on you. You're all part of the thing.
We talking Deng era? Is that's
I don't know the Chinese leader at the time, but so it's 2000. At the time this happened, these are the nations that traded more with America in blue and ones that traded more with China in red. Okay. This is the state of the world at the time of the WTO entering China. Flash forward just 24 years, the world is drastically different. Now almost everybody trades more with China than they do with us. China now makes 1/3 of all manufactured goods, more than US, Japan, Germany, and South Korea combined. They have just leapfrogged the globe in terms of manufacturing. Half of the new world's industrial robots were made in China. Global shipbuilding, 55% in China. Actually not an important thing. They control the lithium-ion battery industry. They control the drone industry. They're leading in electric vehicles. There's a lot of areas that China has now become a strategic power in over the course of the last 24 years of trade. And, whether it's fair, there's many arguments that most sides will make about who's being unfair and what's going on and whether China stole IP or there's a lot to talk about. And I think there's merits on all sides here. But what I think America is seeing, I think through a really kind of unfortunately foggy, dense Donald Trump lens, but it's like that something is going on here. Something we're falling behind. Something in some way we need to stop this, and that is where the impulse to get these tariffs on China specifically comes from. And again, it's not just America. So I want to point this out because I think it's really important. Is that China has really focused on exports to grow their economy. That's their main thing. They had a real estate bust. Their internal stuff's kind of actually struggling, but exports are great. They're crushing exports. They're selling EVs all over the world. And every other country in the WTO, not just America, has been reporting more and more challenges. They've been flagging, they've been issues. This is a spike you can see in 24, but also just rising over the time of other countries doing WTO complaints or investigations against China. Specifically on the right, you can see they're coming from India, EU, Brazil, Australia, Turkey. Everyone has been kind of mad that all the manufacturing is leaving their countries and going to China, which has been just the global mecca superpower of manufacturing. So that's where we find ourselves. And that's why it's such an interesting time. even the tariffs of Trump's first term did not stop this rise. In fact, it's grown in the past few years. Biden kept the things. So that's where we find ourselves. And that's why a coordinated global, having a lot of allies working with you to maybe do a slowly but increasing tariff on China to keep some of the manufacturing out of there makes some sense. But when you're pissing off everybody, I want to show this clip. This is Australia.
The unilateral action that the Trump administration has taken today against every nation in the world does not come as a surprise. For Australia, these tariffs are not unexpected, but let me be clear, they are totally unwarranted. President Trump referred to reciprocal tariffs. A reciprocal tariff would be zero.
God, that's all you really need to say. And that he says not 10%, and we have a 10% in Australia. Australia would be a partner that we'd really want on our side if you were trying to make some deal against China. And that's why you can see, I mean, this year hasn't ended yet, but in 25, the probes against China have dropped because people are focusing on America. Every one of these countries in the WTO is more worried about what America is doing than what China is doing with manufacturing. So that's where we find ourselves. But I wanted to set the stage on like how much has changed in the past 20 years and why this is like a big issue that's being talked about.